James West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
This is why you took a second job. Why you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
Hey, it's a Thursday, January 21, and this is the Bill Press Show. Welcome. Great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. We're there right alongside of you, right in your face on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. Thanks so much for joining us with a lot to talk about today here in Washington, D.C. on the East Coast. We are ready for it. The big snowstorm due to blanket the East Coast starting Friday through all days Friday night, all days Saturday into Sunday morning. And you can expect the East Coast to just come to an utter standstill. Last night we had just about an inch and a half of snow, and everything was snarled then. It's going to be a doozy this weekend. Speaking of climate, big news yesterday when both NASA and NOAA released reports on climate change in temperatures in 2015. Both of them concluding that 2015 was the hottest year on record by far, the hottest year since we started keeping records 136 years ago, way surpassing the year 2014. Climate change is here, and they say very clearly those temperatures are due to man-made global warming. Out in Detroit, President Obama there yesterday, but his visit was almost overshadowed by the news that most of Detroit's public schools were shut down when teachers staged a sick out in protest over the horrible conditions of Detroit schools. And wouldn't you know it, the emergency manager in charge of Detroit schools today is the same man who was responsible for the lead in the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, where he was emergency manager, appointed to both positions by Governor Rick Snyder. See that? Lots to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS with the news of the day on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Are you ready for the big snowstorm? It is heading our way, maybe your way as well. And of course, we're not ready for it. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Thursday, January 21. I got to tell you, I'm ready. I got my parka out today. Wore the parka for the first time this winter. I put the warmest sweater on I could find. Got my Carol Press scarf. Let it snow, let it snow,
It's
let
coming.
it snow. But you know what? It's going to be a mess. It is going to be all up and down the East Coast. And if you look at every map that I've seen, every map of this potential snowstorm, that's got that whole area for the Northeast, and right in the smack dab in the middle is Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And if there's one city that can't handle the snow,
Guilty.
here we are. I
Can't
gotta
stop
tell
what's
you.
coming.
But a lot of people dealing with snow and ice and very severe cold weather conditions a lot longer than we have. So I know we're not going to cry in our beer this morning, but we're just joining you maybe in this winter madness. And it's great to see you today, wherever you happen to be, even if you're down in the sunny part of this country, down in Arizona, out in California, enjoying the continued sunshine. We are happy to see you today. Thank you for joining us. You know the toll-free number, 866-55-PRESS. We hope you'll use it. If you're listening on the radio, on your local Progressive Talk radio station, or on TuneIn or iHeartRadio, we'll hope you give us a call if you're watching us on Free Speech TV, because we want to hear from you what you think about the issues of the day. And there's lots to talk about today. How about it? Donald Trump and Sarah Palin on the road together yesterday. It was funny. There was a big rally in the morning in Iowa where she was supposed to show up with Donald Trump. The cable networks we watched here right after our show yesterday, Fox and CNN and MSNBC, they all carried the Donald live. Sarah Palin didn't show up because she decided to sleep in or whatever.
Whoops,
but
daisy.
she did show up a little bit later with him in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they're the new tag team of American politics. Isn't it amazing?
Oof,
right,
man, Mr. and Mrs. Tea Party.
All right, and President Obama out in Detroit yesterday talking about the auto industry on a day when almost all of Detroit's teachers, public school teachers, had a sick day all at one time, and they had to close almost all the public schools in Detroit. Whoops. Lots to talk about today. President Obama then coming back here to the White House and also having some important things to say about Flint, Michigan yesterday. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson, our team leaders here this morning. Hello, guys.
Bill. Here we are.
Hey, are you ready? Are you ready? Yes,
Let's do
indeed.
this.
Let's do it. Ray Rogers, she'll take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding will keep us there looking good on the big screen. Yep. Watch out. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's right. He's got his ice melt.
That's what I need.
Yeah, it's officially winter.
Those of you on the radio don't see, but Cyprian has given me a great big container here of Roadrunner ice melt.
My man.
Yeah. So what you do, if you're...
He's got to lay it down. He's got to walk on it in the studio.
You carry this with you. See?
For those... There it is.
And then as you walk, you just put a little bit of this in front of you, right?
Sip has the ultimate snow power move. And that is, he carries that with him.
It melts ice fast.
And he sprinkles out in front of him like a flower girl.
Yeah.
So that it gives him traction to walk on the snow. And we got some snow last night.
Right. Yeah, we did. So this is very good. So then, and then the other thing that Cyprian does, which is very nice, that when I leave my house early in the morning when there's snow, Cyprian's waiting out front for me, and then he walks ahead of me the whole way to the studio here.
Right.
Right.
Isn't that nice?
With the ice melt.
On the mornings that Cyprian beats me here to work when it snowed, I know to just follow his tracks because he's already laid down a little snow path for me.
So we're
ready, man.
We are ready.
You got it.
Indeed. As I mentioned, Donald Trump and Sarah Palin going down to Tulsa, Oklahoma yesterday. Why would they go to Tulsa, Oklahoma? Because he's on the evangelical hunt. He's trying to steal the evangelicals from Ted Cruz. Remember earlier this week, before he picked up Sarah Palin's endorsement, he got the quasi-endorsement from Jerry Falwell Jr. at Liberty University. Yesterday, again, he was at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, and he's got Sarah Palin along with him, who she knows how to get those evangelicals. Hallelujah, as Stephen Colbert says.
No more pussyfooting around. Can I get a hallelujah?
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah!
Get a hallelujah.
Sarah Palin just guaranteed Trump the evangelical vote because I think she was speaking in tongues.
Oh, man.
Can I get a hallelujah?
Can I get
an amen?
Yeah, right. There we go. Susan Page joins us a little bit later from USA Today and Hornaday, movie critic for the Washington Post, on the big Oscar Flapadas Gold here from Politico on how the media has been handling the debates and all the issues of the day. And then Alex Seitzwald, who from MSNBC has been out on the campaign trail with Mr. Bernie. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Today's Full Court Press brought to you by Health Mart Pharmacies. Visit healthmart.com for the locally owned pharmacy near you.
2015 was a very good year for J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. So, when you use an ATM that's not your ATM, you have to use another ATM, you have to pay a little fee, right? Usually it's $2 or $3.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it.
I hate it too. They also have overdraft fees in place for if you overdraw your account. So from ATM and overdraft fees, America's three biggest banks, those that I just mentioned, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, combined to bring in $6 billion last year. $6 billion is what they got from ATM fees and overdraft fees. Just to put that into perspective, that is about $25 for every adult in the United States of America.
I figure that out. That's for something they had nothing to do with.
That's right.
And did nothing for. There was
right.
not an ounce of sweat that went into that.
Nope.
Right? No.
Nope. So there you go. The Supreme Court of the United States has a couple of very strong women on it. We've got Ellen Kagan, we've got Sonia Sotomayor, we've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we've got Judge Judy.
What?
All right, maybe not Judge Judy, but don't tell that to 10% of college graduates, because a new survey by the American Council of Trustees and Alumni released some data that showed that 10% of college graduates think that Judge Judy is actually on the Supreme Court. Judge Judith Sheindlin. College graduates.
Yeah.
Judge Judith Sheindlin of the TV show Judge Judy is not on the Supreme Court, nor has she ever been on the Supreme Court, but she does have a TV show. Nor will she ever be on the Supreme Court. Although, maybe, in a Donald Trump presidency, he could very well appoint Judge Beauty to be on
I think Humorous is going up first.
That's true. The survey also found that 28.4% of college graduates correctly identify the father of the Constitution as James Madison. So it's not totally messed up. So Judge Judy for Supreme Court, man. Right. Judge Judy for Supreme Court. Let's do it. And just a PSA, in Toronto, it snowed a lot earlier this week. And an 80-year-old man decided to hop in his car and drive to the grocery store without taking any of the snow off of his car. He literally just carved out a little side on the driver's side so that he could see, and left the whole thing encased in about 10 inches of snow. I'm going to tweet out a link at BP Show that you can see it. Remember, folks, especially since the East Coast is set to get a lot of snow this weekend, do not do this.
No.
You must get all of the snow off of your car before you drive. Apparently not everybody knows this.
And yes, that means waking up earlier, which is what we've been doing.
This is a nice, nice public
I've got to
service.
start waking up earlier. The snow sort of missed me last night. I forgot that we had snow coming.
It takes a long time. You know,
It does. Look, you got to get it all off.
The mirror, you got to get the headlights. Don't
And
forget the
and
headlights.
don't forget the top of your car, because when you're flying down the highway and you've got 6 inches of snow on top of your car, you didn't clean it off because
Get
you
the
forgot to.
taillights, I mean,
It'll
the
come
whole thing.
flying
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Hit another car. It's dangerous.
Right. And then here's the other
Damn it.
thing. If you live in the city like we do, and you depend on street parking, right, then you have to shovel your car out.
Yeah.
Right. And then what you do is you put the orange cones up so nobody will park there while you're gone. Yeah. Except that doesn't work.
I can't imagine that would stop a lot
That
of
doesn't
people.
work. All right, well, it may have been a good year for J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, as Peter just reported. But we start today where it was not a good year. It was not a good year for Mother Earth. It was not a good year for all of us. You know, we've talked a lot about issues in this campaign, in this election season. And there are a lot of important issues out there. You know, guns and immigration and health care and ISIS and on. But none of those issues is more important than the issue of climate change, because that impacts us all. It impacts, again, this entire planet and the survival of the species, right? Well, bad news on that front yesterday from two government agencies, both NASA and NOAA, so the Space Agency and the Earth Protection Agency, if you will, keeps track of the oceans and the atmosphere, NOAA. Both of them came out with reports looking at how bad it was in 2015. Both of them independently studied, independently concluded that 2015 was the hottest year ever. The hottest year since we started keeping records, which was 136 years ago, and not just the hottest year, not just hotter than 2014, but like blasted 2015, 2014 out of the picture. Just not immeasurably, but significantly hotter than 2014. And this has been the pattern for the last, 10 or 12 years?
Keep going up
least.
every year.
Every year. Hotter and hotter and hotter. They reported it. They measured it. NOAA says that I think it was NOAA or NASA. It was NOAA that said they were, get this, 99% sure that their figures were reliable. So when they say that it was that much hotter than 2014,
that's pretty ironclad.
9%. That's what the scientists at NOAA say. And both NASA and NOAA said flat out that this is the result of man-made global warming. Take that, James Inhofe. Take that, Marco Rubio. Take that, all these other idiots who deny there is such a thing as climate change. They said, no question about it. It's a result of man-made activity, man-made climate change. So there it is. I mean, it just got to mention it because, again, I don't think there's any issue more important. And this is just more evidence on top of all the evidence we already have. I mean, you don't, in a sense, you don't need these studies. I mean, look around you, right? Look, the glaciers are disappearing. The polar caps are melting. We have these violent storm patterns we've never seen before, tornadoes where they've never happened before. We've got brush fires out of control, drought in areas that have just go on and on and on without turning around at all. And we've got in Miami, right? Streets flooded every single day, not just at high tide, or not just because there's hurricane or something. It's now part of the course down there, and Miami is spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to stem the tide. And on top of this now, this NASA report, and here's what gets me. You know it's true. I know it's true. Most Americans know it's true. Knows it's true. Everybody acknowledges this except the Republicans in Congress and the Republicans who are running for president.
There are a lot of people who say, well, we haven't seen anything from this yet. We haven't seen anything from this. And that's been their argument for years, right? But when you mention things like Miami and you mention things like other coastal towns, other coastal cities, right, which are all having to make adjustments to deal with this stuff, it's here. It is here. It might not be huge everywhere for you to see it, but it is happening and it's beginning. And it shouldn't be slept on that Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, a lot of these guys running for president are all just as bad of climate deniers as Jim Inhofe. They are probably the worst one that we know. They're just as bad.
I don't think there's one of the Republican candidates, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the Republican candidates who has said, this is a serious issue and we have to do something about it.
I think Pataki went that route, but he's out.
Right.
So they wouldn't tolerate it.
Certainly Ted Cruz isn't there.
No.
Who knows where the hell Donald Trump is on anything. But to get the nomination, I'm sure that's what he's saying. And Marco Rubio, we know, is a climate denier. It's just across the board. I mean, it's just... I think it's a criminal offense if they continue to block any action on climate change. This report, here's the question: will this do it? Is this something they'll finally believe and say, okay, with 99% certainty, I guess we're going to have to believe it, and we're going to have to take some action. We're going to have to do something because President Obama's executive actions are not enough. They're not lasting enough. They're not permanent enough. We need Congress to act. Will this get the Republicans get their butts in gear on climate change? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it right here on the Bill Press Show.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, almost 27 minutes after the hour here, talking about this stunning report yesterday, two reports released by the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, and by NASA, that 2015 was by far the hottest year in 136 years of record keeping. And the question is, why is it so evident and obvious to everyone on the planet except for a handful of Republicans? I mean, based on the entire world's population, it is nothing but a handful of Republicans who control the United States Senate, the House, and the however many are left, 12 or so, that are running for president of the United States. And they can prevent us and block us from dealing with this crisis. I think it is criminal.
Yeah. Remember, we're on Twitter at BP Show. At BP Show. Phil weighs in, who says, but it snowed in D.C. last night. What global warming? Will James Inhofe bring another snowball to the Senate floor?
Yeah, that's
is the argument.
That's the argument.
What global warming? We're supposed to get hit with a big snowstorm this weekend.
It's 13 degrees outside, so how can they say there's such a thing as global warming? Yeah, but you know what? Right. And if it were, by the way, January the 21st, and it were 115 degrees outside, they would still say, well, this is just an aberration.
Yeah.
Right? Climate, the temperatures always go up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
Will this bring about any change among these Republicans? I don't think so. I think the only way to do it, I would, you know, I don't like single-issue voters necessarily. I'd be a single-issue voter on climate change. They either agree they're going to do something about climate change or throw them the hell out of there because they don't belong.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police, without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. Their police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, it's official, as if we needed any more evidence. Big warning from NOAA and NASA yesterday that 2015 by far, the hottest year ever for the last 136 years since we started keeping records, and that it's all due to man-made activity, man-made global warming.
We've got to remember that these are government agencies that have been around for a long, long time. They know what they're doing. They get the best of the best in weather tracking technology. Like NOAA is the group that we rely on for hurricanes and storms and things like that.
I mean, these are scientists.
Right.
This has nothing to do with politics. These are highly trained, the best in the world, scientists and engineers who just do their job, no matter who's in the White House. Right. They just deal with the facts, and they came out with the facts. And yet some people still choose to ignore it.
And there's an argument from some Republicans who are like, well, there are other scientists who disagree with that. So they're quacks, right? Who do you believe? A quack that Ted Cruz or Jim Inhofe will quote, or someone who has who works for the highest level of weather tracking that exists in NOAA?
I've done a lot of research on this. There is not one scientist, one climate denier among the scientists who is not on the payroll of an oil company or some energy manufacturer. I mean, they're all paid to say what they say.
Boom.
Let's take a quick call before we move on here from Andy out in Huntington Beach, California. Andy, what do you say?
Good morning, guys. I think we use this term global warming too much because it's too light a term. We have to hound on the topic of man-made pollution. We have to say it a lot because the Republicans are not real smart. You have to say things over and over again to them because it doesn't sink in real easily.
You know, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I'm not sure man-made pollution is the answer, but to come up with and they're really good at branding things, right? They come up with these terms all the time, right? So we need to come up with a term that maybe will scare the hell out of people.
Yeah.
Or at least
or
at least evoke how serious it is, right?
No question about it. You know, I went to high school in the San Gabriel Valley. We used to have games in the 70s that were smogged out. We would have to go up to the San Gabriel Valley in a bus, and we have to go back to our school because we couldn't play. And without stringent pollution controls with cars in California, we were wrecked. We are so much better now.
Yeah. No, I remember those days in the Inland Empire where they would just shut down because the smog would just roll in there and couldn't get out, surrounded by mountains. It's just absolutely. Andy, excellent point. Thanks so much for being up early for us out in California and for your call. Yes, indeed. Take a Susan Page from USA Today joins us at the next segment here of the program. Very quickly, just a quick look at the political scene yesterday. As I mentioned at the very top of the hour, most of the focus was on the new perfect couple in American politics, Donald Trump and Sarah Palin out on the road together. And Donald Trump says, a couple of days before Sarah Palin endorsed Donald Trump, her son Track was arrested on a charge of domestic abuse. Just the latest incident in that totally screwed up, dysfunctional family. Palin family
doesn't come close to describing that.
No.
Them.
And I mean, domestic abuse, serious charge. This is Track, a former Marine or Army military at any rate. And Sarah Palin. So Donald Trump encouraged Sarah, you should talk about this, which she did yesterday in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
When my own son is going through what he goes through coming back, I can certainly relate with other families who kind of feel these ramifications of some PTSD and some of the woundedness that our soldiers do return with.
Ooh.
Yeah, a lot of soldiers return with woundedness. Woundedness, yeah, right.
Just so we're clear about what happened here with her son, he attacked his girlfriend. This is from the police report. The victim got down on the ground in a fetal position because she didn't know what else he would do, talking about Palin. Palin then kicked the victim in the right knee. He threw her cell phone outside, breaking it. After she retrieved the phone and got back in the home, she found Track Palin armed with an AR-15 rifle. Do you think I won't do it? He asked his girlfriend, according to the affidavit. This victim stated that Palin cocked the gun and was holding the barrel just away from his face, pointed to the side. That is what Track Palin did.
All right. Now, who's responsible for this? Of course.
Obama.
President Obama.
Our military personnel even have to wonder if they have to question if they're respected anymore. It starts from the top. The question, though, that comes from our own president, where they have to look at him and wonder, do you know what we go through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She also blamed President Obama for that brawl that the family got into about a year ago when they showed up at that party in the backyard, right?
Yeah, right.
Had a big fight at Bristol with Howard. Do you know who we are? You can't arrest us. Do you know who we are?
I got to tell you something. Even as a young man, I would expertly find ways to blame other people for my screw-ups.
Yes, right.
I never, ever, ever thought to dream that big.
To blame
the president for my behavior.
Yes, right. In the United States. Now, and of course, if she's wacky, boy, she's with the right person with Donald Trump. Because so yesterday, somehow Donald Trump gets on. He just rambles. You never know where he's going to go. And he ended up talking about Bo Bergdahl, who. I forget now where that's, but he's been on trial, and has he been sentenced?
He hasn't been sentenced yet. It's sort of happening now.
Yeah, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Which I think is wrong, but that's not good enough for Donald Trump. No, Donald Trump has another idea of how we should punish Bo Bergdahl.
As far as I'm concerned, we take him. We fly him over to the area, nice, heavily densed area, loaded up with ISIS. And before we bomb the hell out of ISIS, we drop Bergdahl right in the middle of it.
Jesus. Listen to the crowd.
I was just going to say, listen to the crowd.
Oh, God, it's sick.
The bunch of idiots.
He's sick.
Yeah, he's sick. They're sick.
The whole thing.
I mean, no matter who it is, you take them and drop them in the middle of ISIS, and then bomb them, carpet bomb them all, right?
Oh, boy. What a weird fetishizing of,
I know. Yeah.
The whole situation.
And then kind of to put it in perspective, so Bob Dole is a man that I know well and really admire and like a lot. Don't agree with his politics, but just gotten to know him. So Bob Dole came out yesterday and said, "You think Donald Trump is bad?" He said, "Ted Cruz is even worse. That Ted Cruz for the Republican Party would do more damage to the Republican Party than Donald Trump." Now, think of that after you just heard what Donald Trump said. Bob Dole warning the party that there would be cataclysmic losses. That was his word. If Ted Cruz were ever the Republican nominee. So he's warning Republicans that he's not endorsing Trump. But he's warning Republicans that they would be better off with Trump than with Ted Cruz.
Imagine that.
Hey, a real quick word to Mim up in Stony Brook, New York. Hello, Mim. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I was in your favorite place last week, Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, girl. Isn't that a great place?
Oh, it's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Have you ever been to the inn on the Biltmore Estate?
Yes.
It's just gorgeous.
It is,
absolutely
indeed.
Gorgeous.
Shout out 880 The Revolution.
Right.
Yeah,
good station there.
I listen to it every day.
All right.
Do you remember that Track had to go into the service to avoid a conviction on heroin use?
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. But you can't keep track of that. I'm sorry. You can't keep records. That family is so hard to follow, Mim.
I know, and her blaming Track's problems with PTSD on the president, please. What is wrong with that woman?
Well, if we want to start there, we'd have to spend the next 3 hours talking about what's wrong with Sarah Palin. But glad you had a good time in Asheville. Susan Page, standing by, USA Today Bureau Chief here in Washington, D.C. Take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go now, 12 minutes before the top of the hour. And as we told you, we are ready to get hammered this weekend by the big snowstorm. But we didn't expect it to start last night. That was a surprise, but I'll tell you what. We know that some of our guests may have a hard time getting in when there's snow. So we are a full-service operation here at the Bill Press Show. I got up an hour early this morning, went over to Georgetown, and shoveled Susan Page's car
surprise
out of the snowbank so she could make it in this morning. Hello, Susan Page.
Bill Press, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you've offered to make this a regular service during Snowmageddons.
That's it. I'll be there Friday, Saturday, tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. And then if you and Carl just use the car, we'll put the orange cones down to protect the parking place.
Very nice.
Nobody else can use it, right?
No one would object to that in my neighborhood, I'm quite sure.
Susan, I've tried it on Capitol Hill. It doesn't work. I actually did it one year, right? And it worked like the first time. And then the second time, somebody came along and saw those cones and said, wait a minute. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
All right, now, Susan, I want to know, did you enjoy Sarah Palin and Donald Trump as much as I did?
That was, speechless. But you know what the most interesting thing was? How nervous Donald Trump looked while Sarah Palin was speaking,
standing
like he was
alongside of her? Yes.
a little afraid of what she might say.
Oh, man.
And he just kept kind of pointing over as if that's her. She's saying that.
Yeah, not me.
Not me, yeah.
Now, the question is, does she do him good? Is it valuable to have her endorsement?
I know. The big question is why. But, I think we know why she did it, right? She's back in the spotlight now, right? We're talking about her again, right?
Well, and of course, I think Ted Cruz was. I don't know how much good it does Donald Trump. It's not helpful for Ted Cruz.
Right.
That's clear.
Right. You know, I have to tell you, we all make fun of Donald Trump and everything, but if you want to get at Ted Cruz, right? This week, I thought he did so brilliantly. He goes to Liberty University and to Oral Roberts University, right? So he's embraced by the evangelicals, and then he gets the woman who basically helped Ted Cruz get elected, right, to endorse him. Pretty good
Donald
shots.
Trump's a smart guy. I mean, he knows what he's doing, and he's applying everything that he knows from entertainment and the business world into politics now, which should be scary to a guy like Ted Cruz.
Here's what's incredible. This is the conversation that you just had that is going on in circles all around Washington, which is beginning to accept the idea that Ted Cruz is going to be the nominee, and also the argument, which I've heard from some very senior Republicans, that Trump is preferable to Cruz.
Well, I was just going to mention, and we heard that from former Senate Majority Leader, former presidential candidate Bob Dole yesterday, who said that the party would be better off with Trump than Cruz because they'd have cataclysmic losses with Ted Cruz.
Well, and of course, it's possible they'll have some serious losses with Donald Trump. We'll see about that. But the opposition to Cruz, who is, after all, a smart guy and someone who is in the U.S. Senate, who has run for office and held it, as opposed to Donald Trump, who's a billionaire and a reality TV star and has never run for office before. I mean, the idea that the establishment would prefer Trump over Cruz, it's just the latest inexplicable development in an incredible season.
And now you talked to two former Senate Majority Leaders this week, both of whom I admire a lot, Trent Lott and Tom Daschle, who's a good friend. What did they have to say about this?
Here's one thing. Tom Daschle said that the dysfunction in Washington has fueled the rise of outsiders like Trump. So, in a way, he said, we've brought this on ourselves. That was interesting. Yeah. I asked Trent Lott if he would vote for Donald Trump if he's a nominee. And he said, probably. He said it would be a struggle. And then he said, Republicans have to get used to this idea.
Is that right?
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah. I was on CNN yesterday, and
you're such a name dropper.
No.
I was on CNN yesterday. Did they send a limo for you, Bill Press?
You're damn right they did. A stretch limo, which I demand. But the point I was going to make is they read some quote from some talk show host that I'd never heard of, who said that Donald Trump is like people who raise and they get a pet alligator and they put it in the bathtub, right? And the alligator grows and grows, and then the alligator turns around and bites you. And I thought that was a kind of a good analogy because the Republican, back to Tom Daschle's point, the Republican Party has, in effect, let this alligator grow, this anti-establishment feeling, right? Tea Party and all that kind of stuff. And now Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are biting them.
That's right. But Tom Daschle, who is, of course, as you know, a Democrat, did not limit this to Republicans. He sees the effect in the Democratic Party as well, with people being very unhappy with the state of things, unhappy with the political parties. That's more pronounced among Republicans and Democrats, but it exists among Democrats as well. And I think it's one reason Bernie Sanders has done so phenomenally well in this presidential race, and is dollar for dollar matching Hillary Clinton in spending and incredible fundraising. I mean, the Bernie Sanders story has been one of the big stories of the year.
There's a story this morning, I forget where I saw it, that the Hillary Clinton people are now afraid that Bernie could outraise her.
Amazing.
With small contributions. Unbelievable. As you said, we've never seen a year like this.
As we predicted it, right?
Right.
I wish.
Every week we talk and it just gets stranger and stranger and stranger. Okay. All right. Susan, enjoy that parking place that we got for you over there. All right. And I'll see you early tomorrow morning. What, about 5 o'clock? Will that do it?
I'll have some coffee ready.
All right. You got it. Okay. Thanks, Susan. Bye. Susan Page, USA Today. Also, co-host of Capital Download on WUSA 9, Sunday mornings at 8:30. We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. It will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% tried the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hornaday, Washington Post movie critic, top of the next hour.
A great profile of Bernie Sanders in People magazine, which you can read now, but we got a little insight into how Bernie proposed to his wife, Jane. He proposed to her in the parking lot of a Friendly's restaurant. She said, we were on break and he was trying to get me back. And I said, no, I want to get married and you don't. So then they walked outside after they finished their ice cream. And Bernie said, you want to get married? Okay, fine. Will you marry me? Right in the parking lot. And that's how their love story was born.
That just fits so well, doesn't it? It is perfect.
This
Wasn't a Ben and Jerry's?
is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aqua. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aqua Force going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Get ready. Here it comes. Had a little sample last night and this weekend. Snow in full force to hit the East Coast with Washington, D.C. right in the middle of it. Joining the rest of the country, which has had a lot of severe winter weather already. Hello, everybody. On that warning note, this Thursday, January 21, we start the Bill Press Show, or continue the Bill Press Show. Great to see you and good to have you with us on the radio and on television, on your local progressive talk radio station. Hello out there in Radioland and on Free Speech TV. Hello on TV as well. Lots to talk about today. President Obama back in the White House today after a little side trip to Detroit yesterday to celebrate the resurgence of the American auto industry. And on the political campaign front, it is Sarah Palin and Donald Trump who are getting all the headlines. The new love team of the American politics, bouncing from event to event. Sarah Palin with her big endorsement of Donald Trump this week, which still has Ted Cruz wondering how he's going to respond and react to it, because she was the one who went to Texas and helped him get elected to the U.S. Senate. Lots to talk about today. We're also going to talk movies here at the very top of the hour with Ann Hornaday from the Washington Post. So we'll get right to it with our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Ray Rogers on the job there for your calls at 866-55-PRESS, waiting for your calls. Keep her busy. And Cyprian Bolding out there. Oh, here, right? Not out there. Right here on as our videographer with the lights and the cameras, working for Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Just a quick political note. As Jimmy Fallon reminded us last night, Jeb Bush, by the way, the latest poll in New Hampshire shows Jeb Bush in third place. So,
it's good for Jeb. It's so adorable.
Not over yet.
No,
but
it's certainly not over.
But he can't help but step in it, as he did the other day when he actually said that he loves his mother more than his father.
Meanwhile, at a recent town hall event in New Hampshire, Jeb Bush says he loves his mother more than his dad. While his dad says he loves winners more than people at 4% in the race for president. Come on, man. Wow.
Oh, that was mean. Yeah, that was mean. Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
I love winners more than losers, too. Yeah. Right.
Wow. That's not such a controversial statement, though, is it? Like, I love my mom more than I love my dad, right? And that... every time you see professional athletes, hi, Mom. Like, no one ever says, hi, Dad.
I'm not sure you say it publicly.
Sorry, Dad.
Again, start off with Ann Hornaday from the Washington Post, Hadas Gold from Politico on the media storm over the debates. And then the next hour, Alex Seitzwald from MSNBC and Elise Foley from Huffington Post. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. How about this story from the Daily Beast? You remember David Petraeus?
Of course.
He was found giving classified information to his biographer and mistress, the same person, while he was still in uniform. And he got off relatively easy, except...
on the wrist, yeah.
It turns out that the Pentagon is considering going back and retroactively demoting him and taking away some of his stars. The decision now rests solely with Ash Carter, according to the Daily Beast, and he is willing to consider overruling an earlier recommendation by the Army that Petraeus not have his rank reduced. So they're saying that they want to sort of crack down on this, and as a way to send a message, Petraeus is going to be the guy. They're going to go back and say, you can't do this. We're going to take away rank. I think it's about time.
Yeah, when you look at the difference between, I'm blanking on her name now, who's in prison for 30 years.
Chelsea Manning.
Yeah. And
that's a good point. That's a very good point. There might be a ninth planet in the solar system. Did you hear about this? It's not Pluto, by the way. It's not Pluto. Pluto has been downgraded from a planet, but there might be another one. This comes from 2 astronomers who reported they had compelling signs of something bigger and farther away than where Pluto is, and it would satisfy the current definition of a planet. Professor Michael Brown, who is a professor of planetary astronomy at the California Institute of Technology, and his fellow professor Konstantin Batwin put out this story in the Astronomical Journal, and they say that they have circumstantial argument that the planet's existence is what they've seen is half a dozen small bodies in a distant elliptical orbit, which satisfies some of the criteria of actually having a planet.
This is just stunning news. That, first of all, what took them so long, right? And because this is in our solar system.
Yeah.
You understand? Discovering something like way out there.
They're saying that this potential ninth planet, at its closest point to the Earth, would be about 20 billion miles away, and at its farthest could be 100 billion miles away. One trip around the sun on this ninth planet could take 10,000 to 20,000 years.
Oh, God. Wow. Poor Pluto.
Poor Pluto.
It's still a planet in my book.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm not ready to give up on Pluto quite yet. And how about the Buffalo Bills? They made history yesterday. They announced that they hired a new special teams quality control coach, and that coach is a lady. Catherine Smith is the very first full-time female coach in the NFL. And the Buffalo Bills made that announcement yesterday. Now, we knew last year the Arizona Cardinals hired Jen Welter to work with their outside linebackers during training camp in the preseason. But this is an actual, on the payroll, full-time, going to be with the team throughout the season. Catherine Smith, again, special teams quality control coach. So congratulations to her.
Yeah,
congratulations to the Bills.
Good for them. Good for her. She can coach, but she can't play.
That's right.
That's what it is. That's right. There we go. I got to tell you, with a big snowstorm heading to the East Coast, Northeast this weekend, the New York Post this morning has the front page big cover headline that says, "This weekend, whiter than the Oscars." Oh, my. Can't escape that Oscar controversy. Ann Hornaday joining us on our Newsline, film critic for the Washington Post. Hello, Ann.
Hi, Bill.
But you say it's diverse in some way, not diverse in some ways, but diverse in other ways, right? Your latest story about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I was taking something of a wider view. I didn't, this conversation that's erupted has been fascinating and valuable, and I don't gainsay it. But I also want to kind of pull back the lens a little bit. And, I think that there's always a tension between individual years. It's like global warming. It's like what's weather and what's climate, What are blips of individual years, and then what's kind of the long-term trend? And so I didn't want to react to an individual trend or an individual, blip. But I don't think that there's any question that issues of representation are paramount and huge in the industry at large, and also the Academy writ small. But in terms of the diversity that I was looking at, it's one of the kind of ironies of the year of 2015 was that was a year that female, issues of gender were really cardinal and being talked about a lot. At the same time that we saw, I thought, kind of an encouraging number of movies that featured really strong female roles, some of which were nominated for awards and some of which weren't. but that just sort of, all in all, it was kind of an interesting year on the screen,
right,
as opposed to what was going on behind the camera.
Well, but still, the idea and the fact, rather, that for the second year in a row we have an all-white ballot is really of concern. I'd like to play a quick clip. Now, Will Smith is being interviewed on GMA this morning, but they already released ahead of time, because it was an interview taped ahead of time, some of the things he said. And he makes a point here about the Academy the ballots reflecting the Academy. Well, I'll let him make his point, and then let's talk about it.
When I look at it, the nominations reflect the Academy. The Academy reflects the industry, reflects Hollywood. And then the industry reflects America. It reflects a series of challenges that we are having in our country at the moment.
So you could say even like Flint, Michigan, Ann, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, this does reflect that we're still struggling with this racism problem in this country.
You know, he is absolutely keying on what I am thinking the hardest about these days, which is that this is, you know, I do think that that what the Academy members and leadership are trying to do and what studios are talking about in terms of getting more African American people into their ranks is a valuable one. But what I'm really interested in is, I think, what Smith was touching on, and that's an issue of perception, and that's an issue of literally, why aren't we seeing black people, you know? I mean, why didn't we see Flint? What renders people visible in this culture and invisible in this culture? Mm-hmm. And when we do see people of color, what do we see? What anxieties on the part of white people or majority dominant culture, what anxieties, historical anxieties, come into play, or stereotypes or assumptions? So I think that's what interests me as a critic.
Sure.
What are we conditioned to see, and what are we conditioned not to see?
Right.
What's conditioning audience expectations?
So in a way, you can relate this again to Flint. You can relate it to the whole police community relations.
Absolutely. There is it's funny we're talking about it, because I literally just wrote that. I had written that down even before you played that clip because of what I am planning to write about in the next week or two.
Yeah.
So that's and because I do think that is what's coming into play with the Academy nomination process, because it really depends on literally what they see in a given year and in that award season.
Right.
What are they seeing, and what are they seeing when they see it? I guess that's the question.
It's an interesting point to go down that path, right? Because you know, one of the movies that sort of gets cited as being overlooked is Straight Outta Compton.
Exactly.
Which I think probably scares the hell out of a lot of older white people.
Maybe, or even if it doesn't scare them, I think it probably doesn't resonate with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Culturally, I mean, that was, because NWA was just such a hugely important band for, for youth of that time, regardless of race. You know, they were such a watershed moment, but somebody over 65 isn't gonna get that same shiver, when they watch it.
Right.
And people with the best intentions of the world, won't relate to that. And I think when I've interviewed Academy members over the years about why they vote, especially for Best Picture, why they vote for what they vote for, it's an emotional decision. Mm-hmm. It's not technical or aesthetic.
Right.
It's what moves them the most. And so, like you said, somebody of that generation isn't going to be moved by a Straight Outta Compton.
All right. I want to ask you about a couple of movies that moved me. Just among the list. What did you think of Brooklyn?
Oh, my God, I love Brooklyn.
So did I.
I fell like a ton of bricks for Brooklyn.
I cried all the way through it.
Didn't you, though?
Yeah.
And it's a good kind of cry.
Yeah, it is.
It's the kind of cry you want to have in a theater.
Yeah.
And not to see everything through an issues lens, but it resonates so much with the time we're living in terms of conversations about immigration.
Yes.
But just beyond that, and it's a great old-fashioned sweeping movie, and I think features one of the great performances of the year with Saoirse Ronan, who really recalls people like Maria Falconetti in terms of just the physicality of her performance, the transparency of her face, and just the way she lets emotions play across her face. I was just stunned by it. It was so good. I urge, and it's one of those movies as a critic, people ask me, what do we go see? What should we see? I can recommend that without qualification to just about anybody.
Yeah.
You know, age. It's like it's just one of those all-rounders. It's great.
How about Carol?
Loved it, and that's another one that got overlooked. I mean, I think when we
Blanchett,
talk about issues
unbelievable,
of
right?
we're talking about Oscars so white, but
Yeah.
I think that there's let's pull that lens back and let's look at representation. And that was another thing that I wrote about in terms of the year. We had so many interesting movies last year about sexual orientation and trans characters. And Carol was definitely kind of at the prow.
A groundbreaking movie, really.
Groundbreaking, and kind of had checked all the boxes in terms of being awards worthy. And so the fact that it didn't get nominated for Best Director or Best Picture, I thought was a little stinging, even though the actresses were nominated very rightfully. So it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Very similar to Brooklyn, you know, in terms of its setting. It's New York, 1950s New York, and just its lush kind of storytelling values. Just very old school.
Yeah. And this last weekend, I saw Big Short.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I read your take on that, right?
Yeah, I wasn't as crazy about it as others. I mean, I felt like it's obviously a very important story to tell. It's about the run-up to the 2008 financial collapse. I felt that the filmmaker was trying to, it's a gnarly problem to solve as a filmmaker. How do you make this tutorial in arcane financial instruments? How do you make it
so everybody can understand it?
Understandable and also compelling, visually compelling.
Right.
And so I think to solve the problem, he threw in a lot of bells and whistles. I mean, he makes it very busy visually.
Right.
He makes it very barky and very kind of assaultive. And I think that's one way to solve the problem, but it didn't work for me. Whereas, if you compare it to another adaptation of a Michael Lewis book, Moneyball, I thought they solved the problem much more elegantly in that film in terms of just sort of really making an emotional story, sort of creating this emotional story around it that people could relate to without all the, look at this, look at this, look at this. Yeah. There's a lot of shiny pieces of tinsel and Big Short that I didn't necessarily appreciate.
Yeah.
But people love it, and I understand why, because it really does. It tells a very, very important story.
I'm the biggest cheerleader on the show for Mad Max. How do you think we're going to see that turn out in the Oscars?
Okay. I think, well, there is some, the big kind of race, one of the big races is the director race. Mm-hmm. And we could see George Miller get it, because, and I think, there's two ways to look at Mad Max. One is that it's just this pure visual. It's such pure cinema. It's such a visual storytelling. And it's just beautiful. I mean, there's no question just visually how stunning it is. And frankly, I think features one of the great performances of last year with Charlize Theron.
She's so good.
I would, and she's an example of what I was talking about with women.
Yep.
Would have loved to have sort of seen her get a little love. But the other lens you could see it through is that it's really nothing but a chase. It's just, A to B to A, right? I mean,
it's Cirque du Soleil with cars.
They're well said, and I wish I'd stolen that. But again, with some really interesting and I think potent themes regarding, a dystopia where female reproduction is being controlled, and it's got this feminist subtext to it. So I do think it's a little bit simplistic, in terms of the plot, but I understand people. It's just such a thrilling, exhilarating film-going experience.
Well, we could talk movies all day with you. Unfortunately, we reached the end of the road here, and it's so good of you to join us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks for including
we love
me.
having you on the show. Thanks so much.
Good luck digging out, everybody.
All right. WashingtonPost.com and Horn a Day.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
And 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hadas Gold joins us at the half hour. Just about enough time to remind you my new book is out soon, February 2nd. It's called Buyer's Remorse. It's about all the good things President Obama has done, but also all the ways that he has let us progressives down on many issues, including backing up the NSA with their massive spying of our emails and phones. You can get a copy of it at our website, BillPressShow.com, for $27. A signed copy, inscribed copy. That includes postage and everything. We'll get it out to you. You can order it ahead of time. Be first on your block for one for you and for your friends or whatever. Go to BillPressShow.com. Follow the links to Buyer's Remorse.
Yep.
Your copy
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 33 minutes after the hour. It is the Bill Press Show. Coming to you live from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And reaching out to you coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV, all the way from San Diego to Portland, Maine. We are happy to have you with us. And don't forget, you can give us a call at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. One thing about the media, we love to talk about ourselves. But, the media very much is a part of the story, particularly the political story of these days, and nobody covers it better than Hadass Gold for Politico, whom we're very pleased to welcome back to our studio for her first of many visits in 2016. Hi, Hadass.
Hopefully.
Yeah, indeed.
Back.
Nice to see you. So, yesterday morning, right after our show, Donald Trump is at his first rally of the day out in Iowa. Sans. Sarah Palin. And I looked up here at our monitors, and there's CNN, and there's Fox, and there's MSNBC, and all three of them were carrying Donald Trump live. Why? Have we OD'd, and are we just giving Donald Trump this huge bonus and free ride?
Maybe, but I mean, you have to think about the competing factors here with the networks, which we've talked about before. You know, what pays their bills are their ratings. Yeah. And Donald Trump still brings in ratings, especially like Donald Trump. I mean, if I needed to promote something or to promote myself or some way, I would probably hire Donald Trump. Like, the guy knows how to work the media well in a way that just gets everybody in a frenzy. He brings Sarah Palin up, you know, in the couple weeks before Iowa. And also he was the one who encouraged her, he said, to talk about her son, who had just been arrested on a alleged domestic violence charge.
Pretty serious.
Very serious,
yeah.
And, you know, he knew that if she talked about it in the way that she did, the media would all freak out about it, which everybody did, which gave the story even more legs. And Donald Trump is clearly aware of that. And the media are just reacting. I don't want to say that they act like addicts, but they kind of act like addicts.
I'm glad you didn't say it. But that explains, of course, why Sarah Palin would endorse Donald Trump, right? I mean, she knows she wants to get back. She wants to get back in the mix of things. She wants to get back in the spotlight. That's the way to do it.
She thinks Donald Trump is the best bet for that, despite the fact that she has endorsed Ted Cruz in the past.
Yeah, but this time he would not get her. Cruz would not be able to get her where Donald Trump has gotten her. Right? No. But just think of the other candidates, whether it's Jeb Bush or Chris Christie or John Kasich or Ted Cruz gets his fair share too. But you know, the rest of them, what they would give just to even be mentioned in a story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they...
Let alone be covered live.
Right, yeah. I don't think I have ever seen any of the candidates covered live in the same way. Maybe Hillary Clinton sometimes. But hey, look, it's Chris Christie. He's getting some attention.
He's getting some love. There you go.
Yeah, but Morning Joe is his show.
That's true. No, you're right. They don't get it as much. They will tell you it's not fair. They'll blame the media for maybe their lagging poll numbers. But it's. Yeah. I mean, the media isn't some like public funded, you know, PBS thing that's just there to educate. The media is a profit-making industry.
Yeah, and we have to remember that. So you've written about Sunday night's debate, the Sunday night of Martin Luther King holiday, where we figured nobody would be watching. Were you surprised at how well they did?
Yes, I was surprised initially, and then I had a lot of people come to me and say, "Well, this was the last debate before Iowa, so of course you were going to have more people watching." I was still surprised that they got just over 10 million. Goes to show you that if this was on a weeknight, maybe they would have gotten even more. That you have the question of the broadcast and things like that, and Sunday night is a big night for TV. Despite the holiday weekend, it's not one of those holiday weekends that everybody tends to leave. Like, it's not like Memorial Day or something that everybody kind of gets out of town. But I was surprised. And, you know, there's now a new forum on CNN next week. So even though the DNC consistently says that, you know, this is the right amount of debates, this is what we wanted, et cetera, I mean, you can tell it with everybody adding on these forums. And we've seen reports recently that show, like, you know, Hillary Clinton wishes, or her campaign wishes, that they had more debates, that, you know, the debate schedule might have not been the best way to go this time around.
Right. I think one thing we saw Sunday night, what was your, I believe, but what was your take on Lester Holt and Andrea Mitchell?
I thought they did a good job. You know, it was Lester's first time really, he's helped moderate a debate in the past. This was his first time really on the main stage, especially after the Brian Williams stuff. I mean, if the Brian Williams situation hadn't happened, it would have been Brian Williams in that chair. Sure. I thought that he and Andrea did a very good job. Lester was definitely the kind of the director, keeping everything on track, keeping a strict hand on people. Yeah. Andrea Mitchell obviously showed her foreign policy chops, and I did notice that they were pressing Sanders quite hard on, you know, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to do this? And I wasn't a huge fan of the YouTube questions. They felt a little bit like it didn't mesh well with the rest of the debate.
Yeah.
Because I understand using viewer question or like regular voter questions. These weren't regular voters. These are celebrities with 5 million followers. And I understand it's probably part of an effort to get their followers to watch the debate.
But they were just kind of disconnected from the debate. Didn't you think? I mean, they suddenly just go, okay, now we go and we pull this one out of the air. And they'd been obviously taped ahead of time, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And all of those. And yeah, I agree with it. But I thought we saw two really veteran journalists there who did an outstanding job. And when you look back at all the debates, would you agree with what I hear from a lot of people, that the best of the debates was probably the very first one with Fox News?
Oh yeah, and they're
Isn't that?
I agree.
But yeah,
100%.
They're going to have their next one is coming up January 28th. Same group, and I will have a nice story previewing that, and hopefully be talking with them. And I mean, I think this is going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if this debate.
That's next Thursday.
Next Thursday, if it's the second highest Republican debate in terms of ratings,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe the third, because the first CNN and first Fox one were pretty close. But I think everybody is looking forward to the round two of the Donald Trump, Megyn Kelly, of just they know that those three at Fox News can ask tough questions, and that the candidates won't turn around and yell at them as the mainstream media like they did with CNBC necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's almost the perfect situation. And I think everybody's looking forward to a really good.
So this will be Thursday.
Debate.
This will be 4 days before the caucuses, right?
Mhm.
5 days before the caucuses. And it'll be Megyn Kelly, Brett Baer.
Chris Wallace.
And Chris Wallace, yeah.
Mhm.
No, that'll be, that's a must watch.
Yeah.
Everybody's very excited.
Yeah.
That one I might actually stay up for. Boss.
And after that, I mean, we're still not. They actually haven't released the criteria for that one yet, which is.
Meaning who's going to be on stage?
We have
of
no
course.
idea.
We won't know until next week.
It's still very possible that they'll have an undercard debate, but it's almost guaranteed that will be the very last undercard debate, because by then, after that, we have the primaries, and then the rest of the debates, or not all of them, but the next couple of debates are all on broadcast networks that have only blocked off 2 hours of time.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to do an undercard debate, they would have to do it like streaming online or something.
You know what? That problem is going to resolve itself, in my opinion, that there will not be an undercard.
There might not even be one
after
for
Iowa,
this one.
right?
Yeah.
And certainly not after New Hampshire. There won't be. You have written about there was one debate that the networks were not going to control, right? It was going to be conservative organizations. What happened to that one?
So from the beginning, the RNC planned to have this grassroots debate, which was going to be away from the purview of a big network, without their, just a very different debate than we've had in the past. Very much for the conservative base, by the conservative base. And there had been plans to have the Washington Times be the media partner, or one of the main media partners, and they had plans to host it at Liberty University, the evangelical university in Virginia, where many of the candidates have spoken. Ted Cruz launched his campaign there. And they had all but signed the contract. In fact, Jerry Falwell, president of Liberty University, and the RNC spokesperson had given on the record comments about how they were very excited, looking forward to it, just needed to sign on the dotted line, and it was all going to be set. Liberty University moved an NCAA basketball game that's supposed to be televised for this. Everything was like, curtains were measured, like everything was pretty much set. And then the CNBC debate happened, and it threw everything off, because it made the candidates mad, it made the campaigns mad. The RNC was starting to lose a little bit of control, because remember when the campaigns got together and had these secret meetings, and and so as part of an effort to take control of the process once again, and they just became risk averse, incredibly risk averse. And this debate was risky because, when you go to Fox News or CNN and say put on a debate, they can put on a debate.
Yeah.
This was kind of a different project, and they probably could have pulled it off, but you don't have the same assurances that you might which as they ended up doing. You go to Fox Business and say, "Hey, you guys did a pretty good job. Do it again."
Right. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of money. You need a lot of investment, and these networks are willing to put in that money because they get the ratings back, and they can do it, and they have the people, they have the skills, and all of that.
Yeah.
And
the equipment and the machine, all that stuff. Right.
And in the process, the RNC didn't want to leave the Washington Times or Liberty University hanging because it was a very last minute, like they weren't expecting it. And so the RNC tried to arrange a candidate forum at Liberty University, tried to get all the Republican candidates there. That didn't work out for a variety of reasons, including the fact that Trump doesn't want to be on stage with other candidates. And many of the other candidates had already been to Liberty University. So in the end, Trump and Jerry Falwell arranged for him to go alone, and that's how Trump ended up there on Monday.
Oh, wow.
And then the Washington Times was announced yesterday. They will be the partner with CNN in the March debate.
Oh, I got it. That's very interesting backstory, how it all worked out. I'm telling you, she's on top of it. Hadas Gold here from Politico, Politico.com. Take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
We're back on the campaign trail at the top of the hour with Alex Seitzwald from MSNBC, who is one of their, in the field political reporters, covering mainly Bernie Sanders from the very beginning.
He flew in from Iowa just to do this show, and he's flying back out. Isn't that crazy? What a guy. What a guy.
All right. Does Bernie know that he's taking time out? I'm not really sure. Right now, visiting here in studio with Hadas Gold from Politico, who is their top media reporter. I want to ask you, there's soon to be one less voice on the media scene, and that is Al Jazeera. Not to be mean, what will anybody notice?
Probably won't notice Al Jazeera America, which is the channel that's being
Al
shut
Jazeera
down.
America. Thank you.
Yeah. No, because they had pretty low ratings to begin with. Although their digital operation was, I think, a little bit more robust. And yeah, they were notified, I think it was last week, that the board decided to shut Al Jazeera America down. Some people are blaming falling oil prices for it because Al Jazeera is owned by Qatar. And, they had been pumping so much money into this network that was just expensive and not making any money. I mean, their ratings were not very good.
Asterisk.
Yeah.
Or below, right?
Right. I'm pretty sure that some of us have more Twitter followers than their ratings were at times, which is not what you want for a TV network. And their carriage deals, their contracts were coming to a close, and I think they just decided it wasn't worth the investment. It doesn't mean Al Jazeera is not gonna have an American presence. AJ Plus, which is their kind of social media social media news network, will be there. Al Jazeera English is going to take over some of the American news, and they've actually been approaching some of the Al Jazeera America correspondents saying, come over to us. But I mean, Al Jazeera America within the next 90 days will no longer be there, and many people will be looking for work.
You touched on Al Jazeera English. I know a lot of people at both networks, and the people at Al Jazeera English didn't see why there was an Al Jazeera America in the first place, because they had it covered. They're English language worldwide, including the United States, and suddenly they were everywhere in the world except the United States, and then this Al Jazeera America shows up. So even internally, it wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, Al Jazeera English, I think
which is a damn good broadcast, by the way.
Some of them looked down upon Al Jazeera America and said, I think it's because Al Jazeera America tried to compete with the cable networks, and Al Jazeera English people probably recognize that's not how you can't do that. And Al Jazeera English is respected because it's a different type of broadcast. It's more an international, almost. I guess you can compare it maybe it's like BBC or something like that. And they were, like you said, they were confused as to why the company was just pouring millions of dollars into something that clearly wasn't working, and had gone through so much turmoil between executives and wrongful termination lawsuits and 5 senior women in management just walking out, and it was not very good.
You mentioned him a little earlier. I was curious. Brian Williams in his new role. First of all, I think he's a very good anchor. He's always been a good anchor. But it seems to me that MSNBC has expanded the definition of breaking news.
As often as they can to get him on. They get him on.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be afternoons, but it's whenever it is. I've seen early in the morning breaking news.
Right. I mean, there have definitely been times where you're just like, "Was this?" I mean, but I think it's a question everybody is like, "What's the limit of breaking news?" And when do you bring him on or not? But you know what? I'm sure he is loving it and is just happy to be anywhere near a studio.
And if I'm being honest, I kind of like it. I do. I mean, I don't mind I know that he's a breaking news reporter, but every time I see him, I go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
I feel
he can handle it.
Oh yeah, no. As I say, he's a good, competent anchor. He always has been. If only he had told the truth, right?
I mean, if you were a network who had a good, competent anchor like that, who had the name like that, even with all of his history, still carries it. And when you're going, you've got a bank of TVs, you're flipping through, and you see his face. An average viewer might be more likely to stop and watch than they would for the CNN anchor or something.
I thought it was a brilliant move to put him there, and it's working out. And, of course, the final most important question, is Dylan Byers behaving himself on the West Coast?
I think so.
No comment.
All right, Dylan, Hadas said great things about you this morning. We just want you to know. Okay. Hadas, thank you so much for coming in today.
You.
Good stuff as always. All right, we'll see you again soon.
Yes.
I'll be back and tell you what's on the president's schedule today. He is back in town. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go with hour number 3 coming up, so get ready right away, or switch over if you want to follow us right away to TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Otherwise, we'll see you at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 Pacific on Free Speech TV. In the next hour, Alex Seitzwald has been out on the road with Bernie Sanders for MSNBC. He will be here in studio with us. Then we'll be joined by Elise Foley, who will be bringing us up to date on the Supreme Court's decision to rule on President Obama's executive actions on immigration. Very important third hour coming up. Stay tuned.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go at 3 minutes before the top of the hour. President Obama back from Detroit, back from his comments there about the auto industry and about Flint, Michigan while he was at it. And today he is going to be hosting the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Mayors in town for their winter meeting. They're over at the White House at 5 o'clock. He'll be meeting with them in the East for a reception in the East Room, and then they're going to spend most of the evening there visiting with cabinet members and top White House officials. Of course, before he went to Detroit, he met in the White House with the mayor of Flint, Michigan. We will have our press briefing with Josh Earnest at 12:30. When we come back, hour number 3 here, Alex Seitzwald from MSNBC off the campaign trail here, briefly, stopping by the studio. And then Elise Foley from Huffington Post, hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Society, civilizations, in some sense, are like our bodies. If there's something systemically wrong, it's manifesting all over the place, in all our organs, and that seems to be what's going on in our world at the moment.
The system is failing all around us.
Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our jails are full and can't hold more people. Our young people are burdened with $1 trillion in student debt.
We're in a heap of trouble.
When the temperature of the Earth is starting to rise, that's a very bad sign. Our Earth is running a fever, and it's running it because it's sick in many ways.
In a country like the United States, the fact that anywhere from 45 to 50 million people are hungry, this is a problem.
We can't go on like this. We can't keep moving toward climate catastrophe, nuclear war, persistence of inequality, poverty, famine.
There is a systems problem. These are not one-off issues. They are interconnected, and we have to look at the system as a whole.
It's time to talk about alternatives. It's time to talk about what's next.
We need to be aspirational and be clear about the vision of the world that we want.
What is the system that humanizes us? What is the system that opens up our imagination of possibilities of cooperation?
Nothing is more important right now than to discuss how can we bring about this change.
As systems fail, individual and community creativity explodes, and that's what we have seen. People in this country are solving the problems themselves. They're coming up with new models and strategies, and within those models and strategies are the kernels of a systemic way to move forward.
Land trusts, cooperatively owned businesses,
sustainable energy,
state-owned banks,
urban gardening, urban farming.
These small successes taken together are a proof of concept that this can happen on a larger scale.
We're compelled to search for alternatives, not just analytically, but in how we live and what we do, how we organize our daily lives. And that has tremendous potential.
Our actions and our imagination have to match the magnitude of this problem.
We have to get out of our comfort zone. We must think with courage.
All bets are off in terms of our previous thinking. Our ways of thinking about the economy and our ways of thinking about politics have proven an abject and utter failure. The good news is we have no choice but to adopt revolutionary thinking. I like that.
That's the exciting part about this moment. When there are no rules, then people have freedom to invent and to create new things.
I have no doubt that we can create a better America.
If the people who cared about these things really joined together to do something about them, anything is possible.
The biggest worry for me is that we don't try, is that we don't push for what we know is right, for what we know is possible.
It's time for everybody who cares about this country and the future of the planet to do something about it, to get involved.
We can actually do better. We can build a better system. It's not impossible. It's a very American thing to do, to build a new system.
It's a challenge. We can do it collectively, neighborhood by neighborhood, step by step.
I think that the world that we're on the verge of is a bright and beautiful and interesting one, complex, local, interconnected. I hope we get there.
It's time to talk about what's next. Please come and sign our statement at thenextsystem.org.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get fire adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom,
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Well, whether we want to or not, it looks like it is coming to the Northeast this weekend. They're already predicting this to be the blizzard of 2016, and we had a little bit here last night. Doesn't stop us. We're here. Hello, everybody, and you're there. Thanks for joining us. What a team. The Bill Press Show this Thursday, January 21. So great to see you. Good to have you on board. And we welcome you to the program there, those of you listening on the radio, coast to coast, and those of you watching us on Free Speech TV, coast to coast as well. Lots to talk about today. President Obama inviting the nation's mayors here in town for their annual meeting over to the White House today. A big reception tonight, and then working sessions with members of the administration and cabinet members throughout the evening at the White House. Meanwhile, Sarah Palin and Donald Trump continuing on the road, the new team, the love couple of the Republican primary, and Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders still duking it out in Iowa and New Hampshire, with more barbed criticism coming Bernie's way from the Clinton operation. And we'll find about all of that's happening on the campaign trail from our good friend Alex Seitzwald, MSNBC, who is in between campaign forays to spend some time with us in studio this morning. Hello, Alex. Welcome back to town, and it's good to see you before you run off again.
Morning, Bill. Thanks so much for having me.
You're off today, right?
Out today to Iowa for the duration through February 1st.
We have the chopper waiting up on the roof, so when you're done, you just go hit it. We'll take you right where you need to go.
Part of the service we provide for our guests.
Bill Press chopper?
Yeah.
Exactly. Very nice. Yeah, I mean, putting your name really big on the side, very Trumpian kind of.
Very classy. It's a classy chopper up there.
Yeah.
Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson leading our team this morning.
Here we are.
Hey there.
Okay, Ray Rogers also to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, keeping us looking good. One guy I haven't talked about much, nobody's talking too much about, Rand Paul, but he still finds a way to get out there, get himself on TV. And so he went after the Trump yesterday, Donald Trump, in a way that I don't think any other candidate could possibly do. His comparison to Donald Trump and Gollum.
Well, Gollum was after his precious, his little ring, the ring of power. And to him, power was really important to be an obsession. And I think Donald Trump in some ways represents that, in the sense that he's so smart, he's so rich, if you just give him power, he's going to fix everything. But I come from a tradition, the limited government tradition. Really, we hearken back even to the plains of Runnymede, to the barons challenging the king. We believe in limitation of power, and we believe that power corrupts, and that absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we don't want a strong leader.
Again, only Rand Paul could go Gollum to Runnymede to limits on power.
I mean, I feel
Does
like
anybody follow this stuff, right?
At this point, he's kind of reduced to trolling the rest of the field. He's out of the polls. He's off the debate stage. The problem with him, he kind of got the worst of both worlds. His dad ran these candidacies that were mainly to insert issues into the debate, move the conversation in a direction that he wanted to go, in the kind of libertarian direction. Rand Paul took that and thought he could actually win. Which has looked like he can't. Although, to his credit, a lot of us in the media thought about a year ago that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with. But so now he's trying to get back to that place of trying to reinsert issues into the conversation, and he has to resort to doing these kind of gimmicky things to get there.
Yeah, what he has to do, I think, is to say, okay, I'm running for re-election to the United States Senate. Yeah,
which he's on the ballot for.
He's on the ballot for. Yeah, and then the people believe him in that context. In this context, you're right. They're just not paying any attention to him anymore. So we got a lot to cover here with Alex Seitzel in the first half hour, and then Elise Foley from Huffington Post joins us at the half. Peter, but first.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Amy Schumer is a very funny, successful female comic these days, but is she stealing jokes? Those are the allegations that some people made on Twitter earlier this week because they noticed that some of her material was very similar to that of other comedians, Wendy Liebman being one of them, Amy Madigan another, and Chuck Martin, a writer for the show Arrested Development, talked about it as well and provided video evidence that some of the jokes that Schumer is doing now are other jokes that people told earlier. Now, here's the thing. She went out there and said that she did not steal any jokes. She tweeted, "On my life, I have never and never would steal a joke." And one of the women that accused her of having the same joke as her said, Wendy Liebman, "I never said she stole my joke. I just said it was the same. It's possible we both wrote it. I just want everyone to know I wrote it first." So we'll see. Possible scandal brewing. We'll see if this gets any bigger.
Not. I mean, all comedians steal jokes from other comedians.
It's a heavy accusation to throw around of stealing material. So the argument here is like maybe they both had this same thought, and she just had it independently of this other woman, and so who knows?
I'll admit straight up, I steal my jokes from anybody I can steal them from.
If you're stealing from Bill, you're stealing twice. President Vladimir Putin, I'm not so sure about this guy. I think he might be some trouble. Yeah, I think he might be trouble. Turns out that he might have, we knew that he might have had a hand in the murder of ex-Russian spy Alexander Litvinenko in 2006, and that the UK put out a report. They looked into this. They checked in to see if this was possible, and they said, quote, he probably approved the murder of this ex-spy. They think that Vladimir Putin was behind this. This public inquiry took a look at the evidence, and they think that he was behind it.
But Donald Trump said he's such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. How about death-proof cars? By the year 2020, that is what Volvo wants to have. They want to have cars that you cannot die in. That's how safe they want to make their cars. They said that by 2020, they think that they'll have it all figured out. They'll be ready to put out a car that they say you will not die in this car. Now, it's interesting to point out, by the way, that there are already a couple of cars out there on the road that statistically over the last 5 years have been death-proof, according to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, including the Volvo XC90. 5 years of data on this car show that nobody has died driving these vehicles. But Lex Kirsenmakers, the CEO of Volvo Cars North America, says there is one caveat. If someone really wants to hurt themselves or is just really, really stupid, we can't really do anything about that.
Yeah, but that's different than.
But that's different. They're saying if you drive this car and you operate it safely and you operate it the way that it's supposed to be operated, you will not die. 2020 is the year they say they can guarantee that.
All right, here we go. What point? Okay, made a lot of progress in that area for sure. So, Alex, it must be fun being on the road. You were down in South Carolina for the big Democratic debate. Make any difference in the standings or? shake up the Democratic side at all?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what the polls say. But I think what the debate did do is solidify the notion that Hillary Clinton is really in a real fight here. I think Bernie Sanders won that debate. I think he came out with
despite the gun stuff.
Despite the gun stuff, I mean, if you read the transcript, Hillary Clinton landed a lot of good blows on the guns, on bringing up a Wall Street vote that he took in 2002 that was sort of off message. He didn't even respond to those attacks. He just kind of kept to his message. And on sheer force of passion and intensity, I think he won. So if you, on stage, so if you look at the transcript, maybe Hillary Clinton won, but on stage, I think it was him. And right now, in this larger context of the race, with him pulling even in Iowa, ahead in New Hampshire, big enthusiasm gap on the ground, and this really strong anti-establishment sentiment taking place in both parties. I think that debate was probably one of the strongest nights of his entire campaign. And certainly, in support and in fundraising, the campaign, it feels very good about that. Whether it changed votes or just further electrified his own supporters, we'll have to see. But either way, that's a win for Bernie Sanders.
And the Hill has we know that the Clinton campaign has been edgy, a little worried about Bernie's creeping up, as you just pointed out. The Hill has a story this morning that the Clinton campaign is also worried that Bernie might end up raising more money than they do, which would be phenomenal.
It would be shocking. I would take all of these things with a big grain of salt. This is, classic expectation setting, as you know, and heading into the last financial deadline. The Clinton campaign was sending out these sky is falling emails to their supporters saying Bernie Sanders is going to outraise us. And then they outraised him, by I think $10 million or something. So it wasn't even close. But there's no doubt that the Sanders campaign is raising huge amounts of money from small online donations. And the real concern here is if this primary goes into late March, into April, into even June, then Hillary Clinton could have some real financial troubles because her donors are, largely these maxed out people who have given the federal maximum $2,700. You can't go back to them. You have to find brand new donors, which is hard to do if you're in a fight for your life late into the primary. This is exactly what happened to her in 2008. Bernie Sanders, these people are giving him $20. He can keep going back to them again and again and again, and sort of has an endless supply of money just in the donors that he already has, let alone reaching out to new donors.
Do you believe that Hillary is still, despite how well Bernie has done, that Hillary is still the odds-on favorite to win the nomination?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, I think we're still looking at a question of, when, not if she's the nominee. But that when is a really important question. Not too long ago, we would have thought that March 2nd would probably be the day, the day after Super Tuesday, that Bernie Sanders would get out of this, or at least when she could turn her attention to the general election and not really have to worry about Bernie Sanders anymore. But if she's got to stay in April, even into June, which is what they're preparing for, the possibility of that completely changes the landscape of the primary, and it affects the general because it's going to take a couple of months off her campaign, and they're really counting on being able to get there faster than the Republicans and start laying the groundwork the way Barack Obama did in 2012.
So in a sense, I guess that answers my next question, which is if, as I agree with you, that she's the odds-on favorite to be the nominee, why are they panicking at all? Maybe that's too strong a word, but
I don't think it is.
Okay, thank you. And really going and attacking Bernie Sanders like on every front now, right? And then they're pulling out. He's trying to destroy Medicaid, right? He's too old. He's unelectable. He hasn't released his medical records. And here's Claire McCaskill, who is a Hillary surrogate, having supported Barack Obama over her the last time around, making up for it this time.
Right.
She's out with now the S word that they're throwing around.
I think it would be absolutely impossible for a self-declared socialist to win in a state like Missouri. And you've got to win states like Missouri if you're going to win the presidency. States like Indiana, states like Ohio, states like Pennsylvania. It is very hard, I think, for most Americans to see how socialism would cure the problems that we are facing right now.
So all these attacks, why, and are they working?
Just one, I will take issue because it annoys me. You do not need to win Missouri or Indiana to win the presidency.
That's right.
But we'll set that aside for now. Ohio's a different story.
You could make a long list of the Democrats who are president who've not won Missouri and Indiana.
Absolutely. Almost all of them, probably, yeah.
Right.
But no, the larger point is one that she is making that a lot of other Hillary Clinton supporters are making. The campaign itself has so far not made the point. But which is it's a general election argument. They're not saying that they have a problem with him being a socialist, although you could read into that way. They're saying that it's never going to happen in a general election to elect Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And that's really been the closing argument of the Hillary Clinton campaign and her supporters, not just on socialism, but in general, that he is not electable. And they're cranking up the stakes. They're really instilling a lot of fear into the base. Look at what Donald Trump is doing. Look at what Ted Cruz is doing. Do you really want to gamble by putting up Bernie Sanders on the primary and have one of those guys end up in the White House?
And isn't that the same unelectability argument that they used against Barack Obama in 2008?
There's a lot of arguments that are being, the unelectability argument, the I'm prepared from day one, the I'm tough, the I live in reality, a lot of very similar arguments that are being used. The difference, they might be right. Bernie Sanders is not Barack Obama. He is a very different kind of candidate and a very different kind of organization behind him. And, the Hillary Clinton is who she is. So maybe it makes sense that they have the same argument. But yeah, there is, I think there's panic. It does exist. That is going on for sure. Maybe it's calmed down in the past couple of days. It's not the strongest argument. You're sort of conceding something when you go to electability because you're no longer making the case that Hillary Clinton is the one that you should vote for in the Democratic primary because you love her so much. It's that you should vote for her because look at how scary the alternative is.
Because she has a better chance of winning than the other guy.
Right.
Alex Seitzwald in the field, on the job for MSNBC, covering the Democratic side, both Hillary and Bernie. Your questions or your comments, you've been watching it all as well. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number, and we'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At 26 minutes after the hour, continuing here with Alex Seitzwald from MSNBC. MSNBC.com, of course. So, Alex, a poll out this week in New Hampshire, which I find hard to believe. Bernie Sanders at 60 and Hillary Clinton at 33 among likely Democratic primary voters?
Yeah.
How reliable is this poll?
I mean, I don't think anybody on either campaign believes that Bernie Sanders is 27 points ahead in New Hampshire. I think he's ahead. I think both campaigns think he's ahead right now, but not 27 points. And also, we should keep in mind that anything that when you're thinking about New Hampshire, the race sort of resets after Iowa. And we don't really know how exactly Iowa is going to impact it, but it will impact it for sure.
Right.
Barack Obama was leading New Hampshire in some polls by double digits the night before the New Hampshire primary in 2008. And of course, Hillary Clinton won. And the thought then was that, the party was not ready, or New Hampshire voters were not ready to hand Barack Obama the nomination so early,
right?
Because of what happened in Iowa. So, I'll take this all with a big grain of salt. That said, he is strong in New Hampshire. He's stronger in New Hampshire, I think, than he is in Iowa. And that's why you're seeing this panic, whatever you want to call it, and this not just from the Clinton campaign, but from the whole Democratic establishment.
So let's go back to the electability question. That same poll shows Bernie Sanders over Marco Rubio, 55 to 37, and over Donald Trump, 52 to 34. And Hillary Clinton is like neck and neck with the two of them.
Well, this has been the Sanders campaign whole argument on as they respond to Hillary Clinton's electability argument. They say, fine, we're happy to have an argument about electability. Look at the polls, the general election polls. And it's not just this one. It's pretty much every general election poll shows Bernie Sanders beating most of the Republicans, especially Donald Trump, and by larger margins than Hillary Clinton. Again, I would take that with an enormous grain of salt, because consider, for example, that Republican super PACs have spent $5 million attacking Hillary Clinton already this year. They've spent $0 attacking Bernie Sanders. Republicans have gone after Hillary Clinton for years and years and years. They've softened her up. They have not done that to Bernie Sanders. Would he survive that? Much harder to know.
They really, and they're doing that because they believe that she will be the nominee. Correct?
Because they believe that she'll be the nominee, and I think because they think she'll be the stronger nominee.
Right. All right. Hey, Alex, have fun in Iowa, and we'll see you in New Hampshire.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one. You're a nice lady.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
At 33 minutes after the hour, it is the Bill Press Show on Thursday, January 21, coming live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today in part by Amalgamated Bank. Yeah, a bank with progressive values. I know it sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. For nearly a century, Amalgamated has been the first choice bank for progressive organizations and people nationwide. Check them out yourself at amalgamatedbank.com. And today, the way banking is, you can bank anywhere in the country online and do that at amalgamatedbank.com and be a proud progressive at the same time. President Obama, big news this week. He signed those executive orders on guns recently, which followed the signing of executive orders on immigration. And the Supreme Court said this week they are going to take that up, his immigration executive orders, and make sure or take a look and determine whether they are in fact constitutional. Elise Foley covers these issues, politics and immigration, for the Huffington Post, and she joins us in studio this morning. Hi, Elise. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for coming in. Why did the Supreme Court... This is a case brought by various states challenging the constitutionality of these executive actions. Why would the Supreme Court take it up?
Well, I think it's something that was going to get to them anyway. A judge in Texas ruled in favor of moving the case forward and put an injunction on the programs moving forward. So this is all it's all been delayed. It was announced more than a year ago, and no relief has been granted. So
they
far.
They haven't kicked in yet.
They have not kicked in, and then a appeals court.
There we go.
Upheld that injunction, and so then it went to the Supreme Court. The interesting thing with what the Supreme Court did is that they are not just deciding whether this can move forward, they're deciding whether it's constitutional for the president to do it at all, which is something they'd probably eventually have to determine.
Decide anyhow,
they're going for it now.
So they were given this case, and then they broadened it to look at the whole constitutionality of executive actions in general, or just executive actions when it applies to immigration reform?
Well, they're looking at this specific executive action, but it could still have implications on executive actions in general, because if they say that these types of things are not allowed, obviously Obama says that they both are allowed and they're a good idea. It could mean that in the future presidents would not be able to do certain things on, not just immigration, on other things as well. So all these Republicans who are saying, oh, we want this restricted, are potentially, asking for their power, if they become president, to be restricted as well.
Has the Supreme Court already shown its hand? Because they did consider challenges to the president's executive authority on health care reform, and ruled it. I mean, that was legislation, right? But they still ruled in his favor. So,
yeah, I think potentially. I mean, it's one of those things that depends so much on who you ask. People who support this and think it was the right thing to do and say that it was legal, it was constitutional. People who oppose it, even legal experts say that it wasn't. So I don't know that they did necessarily show their hand entirely. Immigration is sort of a different issue. And like you said, that wasn't done through legislation in any way. It was done simply through the president.
The immigration one.
The immigration one, right.
But the healthcare was done through the legislature.
Right.
Yeah, through the Congress. So if they were to say, we're done. The president overreacted, abused his executive authority. If they were to agree with the states, would that be retroactive? For example, how about his executive action on guns? Could they go back and basically say anything President Obama has done by executive action is invalid?
That is a good question. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I think that it would require more lawsuits, right? Other people would have to challenge those executive actions specifically, and then there might be the precedent that looked like those lawsuits would succeed. But I must admit, I am not a legal expert, so I'm not
exactly a lawyer
sure.
either, but I've played one without a license for a long time. So I was curious with the question. But, it does seem to me, it's interesting in that the parallel to me that I immediately think of is that the Supreme Court on campaign finance reform, they had this little case years back before Citizens United, and John Roberts says, no, we don't want to just look at that aspect of it. We want to look at the whole enchilada about campaigns finance, and that ended up in Citizens United. So here the court is saying, well, we have this challenge to this one executive action, but let's look at the constitutionality, the basic principle. So, is there an agenda on the part of the court? Again, who knows? Maybe, and then is the agenda to say we want to really put down use of executive authority, or that we want to establish once and for all that all presidents have done similar things, and that's what the executive can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the big question, and we'll see, because it either puts this to rest or it affirms all these people who say that Obama is overstepping, not just on immigration, but on all sorts of things.
Right. I mean, it's interesting to me that this is fundamentally a question about the power of the presidency versus the power of the Congress, and the power of the court. I mean, it's the balance of power thing, and how far each one can go, right, before they overstep their bounds or step into the authority of another branch of government. And we've been dealing with that since this country was founded. I mean, it's one of the basic questions that this country has always faced since the adoption of the Constitution. So here we go again.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's happened on these types of things have happened on immigration before in terms of making sort of executive decisions that have implications.
So
sort of like this, but maybe on a smaller scale.
All right. So on immigration, as you point out, when was it the president signed these? Over a year ago, right?
It was in November of 2014.
Okay. So we've been waiting since then for the courts to decide whether or not these things can go forward. Will the Supreme Court now? So President Obama's out, right? January 2017. Will the Supreme Court decide this issue, and will there be enough time for the people that the president wants to help to get the relief that they need before President Obama's out of the White House?
Well, I think so. I mean, they are supposed to decide, I believe, hear it in around April, make an announcement on their ruling around June. So that does leave a decent bit of time. Since this wasn't entirely blocked from moving forward until a little while after it was announced, a lot of people were already starting to put their paperwork in order. There's a lot of things that you have to prove, such as how long you've been in the country, when you entered, staying, your children being born here, stuff like that. So a lot of people already started putting those documents in order. Mm-hmm. If they did that, and perhaps there will be another effort now that the Supreme Court is going to rule on it to get them to do that, I think that they could apply pretty quickly. The administration had actually already started part of it, had been planning to start the larger part with parents fairly soon when it was blocked. So I think that they are pretty much ready to go and would certainly have the incentive to put as many people through it as possible, because the more people have it, the harder it is for another president to take it away.
Yeah. This question came up at our briefing on today's Tuesday, and a little bit on Monday as well. And Josh Earnest said, well, we feel good about this because we're confident that the law is on our side, the Constitution's on our side. We're confident the Supreme Court will see that, they'll see it quickly, and that will give us time to provide these families that have been waiting for relief. So the White House is optimistic about it, and let's hope it goes in that direction. The other part of your assignment there at Huffington Post is reporting on the refugee situation related to the immigration reform, and some action taken by the Senate yesterday. I want to ask you about that when we come back. So hold on, and we'll be right back. If you have a question on this is a hugely important case in front of the Supreme Court. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that would be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here at 14 minutes before the hour, let me mention again a special opportunity. My new book number 7, by the way, comes out February 2nd. That's a week from Tuesday. Here it is. It's called Buyer's Remorse: How Obama Let Progressives Down. Don't get frightened. It's not an attack on President Obama. You know, I'm a supporter of President Obama. But it really makes 3 points. 1, all the good things that President Obama has done. But 2, how he has let us progressives down on, in many ways. Just think of all the NSA spying that he supports that is still going on. And the third point is that with a new Democratic president, either Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, we progressives have to demand that from the beginning that president follow and carry out a full-bore progressive agenda. And so we don't miss another opportunity. You can get a copy of the book on Amazon now, but it won't be in your bookstores until February 2nd. If you go to our website, BillPressShow.com, a special offer to all of you listeners and viewers and regular fans and friends of the show. Get your own copy, signed copy, inscribed any way you want it, to you or to someone, a friend or not a friend. For $27, we'll sign it, ship it out to you. It covers the cost of the book, the tax, the shipping, everything. $27. Go to the website, BillPressShow.com. And with that, we've come back to Elise Foley from Huffington Post. Here on immigration, the Supreme Court, when will they hear this case? Do we know yet?
I believe around April.
In April. Hear it in April and maybe rule as early as June is what we've been told, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, meanwhile, where are we with President Obama said he would like to see the United States welcome 10,000 Syrian refugees this year.
Yes.
Is that going to work? Is that going to happen?
Well, doing that, they have to be screened, and it tends to take a long time.
Meanwhile, Republicans in Congress don't want it to happen.
Republicans are trying to block it entirely. It doesn't look like they'll likely be able to do that. President Obama said that he would veto efforts to do that. In the House, they had a veto-proof majority, and in the Senate, Democrats blocked it yesterday. So basically, this bill that they voted on yesterday would not technically pause resettlement. They've sort of pitched it that way, but it wouldn't actually say they couldn't resettle Syrian and Iraqi refugees. Instead, it puts extra requirements, and it also says that various law enforcement officials would have to sign off by name on everyone. And so the idea behind that basically is so that they would accept the liability if somebody comes in and they end up being a terrorist. The House Homeland Security Chairman Michael McCall said back in November when the House voted on this that basically that was the purpose, that they wanted it to be on them if something happened. And so it's basically just putting political pressure on them not to do it versus actually calling, an exact pause.
So their goal is really to stop any Syrian immigrants from getting here. Is that
Yeah, exactly. And Iraqi refugees.
And Iraqi
right. And they say that, okay, so you're saying that we're going to block children. Why can't people sign off on children?
Yeah.
At the same time, anytime somebody comes in as a child, as a refugee, and then ends up doing something later, even if they were, radicalized in the U.S., people say, oh, this is why the refugee system is bad. So, it's hard to really know how you can do anything.
How, I have an idea to fix this. How about if we just let the Christians in?
Yeah, maybe.
It's Jeb Bush's idea, right?
It is, right.
Yeah.
And he sort of backed away from that, but it's just something, they sort of act like they're not letting Christians in, but really most Syrians are Muslim, so most of the refugees are Muslim.
Well, I know the reaction of those Republican candidates and Republicans in Congress when they heard 10,000 as, oh my God, we're going to be overrun with Syrians. When I heard 10,000, I thought 10,000 is like nothing compared to what other countries are doing in Europe who have less capacity, right, than we do.
Less capacity and also a different situation that kind of allows for less screening. So for those countries, a lot of people are just showing up at their borders. It's harder at your border to figure out who's okay, who's not. Our system does not have a lot of people showing up at the border for the obvious reason of how are they going to get there? They're not as close. So it's people...
Kind of hard just slipping across the border of the United States.
Right, exactly. And so it's people being determined when they're already overseas in refugee camps or, maybe in their country that they're okay. And so that means that they can go through this long process. They can go through all these checks. So it's a different situation. And in fact, I think in a lot of ways, our situation allows for more screening. So to say, 10,000 is crazy. It's 10,000 out of 4 million Syrian refugees. So it's just a tiny percentage.
Has the flow slowed down at all?
I think that the flow
we don't hear as much about it in the media.
You don't hear as much about it,
that's because we just, in the media, we cover something nonstop for 24 hours and then we get bored and then we move into something else. But what's the reality? They still...
this is still going on. Things are still really bad in Syria.
Yeah.
So people are still trying to flee. If you are in a place with your kids or even just yourself where you feel like, not wrongly, you might get killed, people leave those places. And so people are continuing to leave. People are still, these refugee camps still have a massive number of people. So people are living in not great conditions in refugee camps. And so this is certainly still going on, whether people are looking at it or not.
Yeah, I know. We've just sort of looked the other way, which is really sad too. It doesn't help things. At least these are very, very important issues. Done a great job covering them for Huffington Post, and we appreciate getting your insights this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, see you again soon, and take a quick break. Then I'll be back with today's parting shot. Wrap things up.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yep, every day it seems there is more and more serious evidence of global warming. Here's the latest, a report from both NASA and NOAA that 2015 was the warmest year on record since we started keeping records 136 years ago, and it wasn't even close. NOAA said 2015's temperature surpassed 2014's by 0.29 degrees, and they said they were 99% certain of that. No doubt about it. Both NASA and NOAA attributed the record high temperatures also to man-made global warming. Well, you add that to the other evidence all around us, melting polar caps, disappearing glaciers, violent storms, and weather patterns. You realize rebroadcast again at 12 noon Eastern. So get ready for the snow. Get ready for me on State of the Union on Sunday. Betsy Woodruff tomorrow.
This is The Bill Press Show.